This is Outnumbered, okay? Prepare yourselves. Get your Dramamine out. Prepare yourselves for this segment. So let's listen, and I'll stop and start many times to discuss.
Here's the American pride. That American pride is on the decline. A recent Gallup poll found just 39% of adults took extreme pride in our country. That is down 4 points from 43% 2 years ago. But this trend is anything but new. Look at the chart. Pride in our nation has been on the decline for the last 20 years. And there's an interesting distinction when you look among political parties. Gallup found that 60% of Republicans say they were extremely proud, while just 29% of Democrats did. And the Wall Street Journal released an American Pride poll of their own earlier this year, with just 38% of Americans saying that patriotism is very important to them. In 1998, that figure stood at 70%. But American pride isn't the only traditional value that's heading out the door these days. That same poll found that 39% of Americans think religion is very important. Now, that is down from 62%, also from 1998. And now, for the first time, a stunning new...
Are they trying to connect the downward spiral of American pride to people's participation in some sort of religious activities or just religion in general? That's what they're trying to connect. So even since the beginning of time, all the way up until now, this is the same sort of propaganda tactic. That it's almost like godly. You're more in line with being, you're godly if you're godlike or godly. Maybe that is the right word. If you have American pride, they're kind of tying these two together. And let me play it a little more. I don't want to give away what she goes into here or what they go into. So let me play it a little more before I comment further.
A new Fox News poll shows that a majority of Americans believe the country's best days are behind us. And a Gallup poll found that nearly 70% of Americans no longer have confidence in our national government.
70%. Look at that. Do you have confidence in the national government? I know I don't. To me, 70% is kind of low. I would expect those figures to be in the late 80s, with only roughly 10% saying that it's not. The 10%, that's the higher echelons as far as economics. But 70% say that. This is the signs of a collapsing empire. People's faith in institutions have been... institutions have been exposed. They've always been this terrible, but they have been exposed. So their faith in institutions, which is what a lot of people in established politics put institutions over actual rights. This is the reason why you don't see Joe Biden and the Democratic Party going after in any tangible way the filibuster or the Supreme Court for taking away rights, because they believe the institution is more important than the outcomes, than your rights, than the people's rights. And they are shocked with the decline of income, the increase of income inequality. They're shocked that people's confidence in the country, people's pride in the country is declining. It's truly, that's what's shocking to me, is that you're shocked about that.
Let's start there. Joe Concha, right to the middle, they're in the hot seat. What do you think?
But one other part about this poll that really stands out to me. What is the best country to live in the world? Is the U.S. the best country to live in the world? So they asked American voters about this. You go back just 5 years, 83% said the U.S. number one best country to live in. You go to this year, it's down 20 points. So we're not talking about 63%. The 1950s when everything was really great. We're talking just 8 years ago, and we're seeing such a precipitous drop. And I think, Molly and ladies, the reason why is we see so many institutions now being weaponized, whether that's, we saw it during COVID, we saw it with the Department of Justice, the FBI, we see police being demonized. A lot of it goes on in the media. We see a border that's open right now, essentially, where 7 million people have come into this country since Joe Biden.
So here is the part that Cornel West is going to be addressing when he goes to Trump country. That's this. So they identify the problem that we all have, inequality economics. Doesn't matter. Trump supporter, rural or versus urban, black, white, indigenous, Asian, Latino. It doesn't matter. We have that. But what this channel is doing, what Fox News is doing, is why Cornel West has to go to Trump country and sort of talk to these people. Who are they blaming it on? Who did he just list? We're talking about, what we're saying, what people have been saying about the police. You mean how they're killing everybody and people's ideal of them has been unmasked, or they have been unmasked to a lot of the population who thought they were good? And then he talks about open borders. You see the scapegoating, you see the scapegoating of capitalists, scapegoating everything but capitalism. On the blue side, they scapegoat a whole different list of things, but on the red side, this is what you have, and this is why Cornel West has to go to Trump country, and I'm happy he's doing that. Let's continue.
Biden took office. As a parent, I see ACT test scores at a 30-year low, and I say we can do better. You defund the
schools. If you don't fund education, what do you think test scores? What do you think is going to happen to test scores? Capitalist arguments are landing less and less, and because the logic in them it's so transparent. This is not logical, and it's specifically because of the things we're going through: the pandemic, inflation, sending all this money to Ukraine, and austerity measures. So let's continue. Let's see what else he said here.
Better. So these poll numbers are understandable given the current state of the country when we talk about education, inflation, crime. We see it in Philadelphia and Baltimore, these horrible shootings, and the Democratic leaders there are saying this is the new normal. Just accept it. No, we shouldn't accept it. And that's why we're seeing this precipitous.
So he's saying because the border and the shootings and not respecting police, that is what's bringing the unhappiness. Not that capitalism is bringing the unhappiness and the people are reacting this way. The chicken before the egg, I guess, is what he's here. But let's continue.
Precipitous drop, Molly.
Yeah, there's an enormous amount of polarization in our politics. Here we are heading into an election year, unlikely to improve heading into an election year where people are trying to kind of divide and talk back and forth. But Tammy, your thoughts on these numbers and how much we've seen the shift so dramatic over these recent years?
Yeah, I think in part it is about communication. It's about media. It's the internet. It's that we might have a feeling about what our family is feeling, what our neighbors are thinking. But now we see everybody, right, who's got vocal cords online and talking about
They're talking about us.
They think, and that's fine. But it gives you a false idea, a false sense of the nature of what's happening in the country.
So the people who are experiencing and just putting out their ideas based on what they're experiencing, their friends and families' experiences, that's not accurate, is what she's saying. Your own experience is not accurate to describe what's happening in America. Absurd.
In the country, that whether if you hear people, you think it might be the majority when in fact it really isn't. And of course, with young people online and with social media. But I would concur with Joe is that I think it's not at all about people actually having a deep change of heart about the country. It's about reacting to the nature of what's going on inside the country. And we have to remember, unlike other countries in the world, we're still a baby country. We are really the first country that is united and together, not because of geography or because of language or because of 2,000 years of history. It's because we've come here and we've decided we're a country, and it's about the ideas of this nation. So when we see those ideas being kind of strangled, it worries us. But the founders anticipated this, and that's why we have elections every 2 years, and that we can make a difference. And that's why it can shift from 8 years ago, and we kind of are worried about the future. Well, we don't have to worry about the future because this remains the best country in the world, which allows, and we should expect this up and down.
Just because she says it.
But then we have to act because we're the sovereign. Today is a reminder of that, and we can do it. We'll do it again in a year and a half. And we've just got to stick with it this time.
Yeah. When Gallup first asked this question, January of 2001, 55% of U.S. adults were extremely proud to be American. Then after 9/11, what a change. Extreme pride soared, ranging from 65 to 70%, that lasting from 2002 to 2004. And Kara, Tammy just raised that interesting comment about the internet and social media, and your thoughts on that, because that's kind of a world that you're an expert at.
Exactly. And I think I want to bring into the conversation specific digital platforms. And there's one in particular, TikTok, that 67% of American teenagers are on TikTok.
Wow.
They use it in some capacity. 16% use it almost constantly, in their words, according to a 2022 Pew survey. So this is a massive problem, especially when it is effectively beholden to the Chinese Communist Party through its parent company headquartered in Beijing called ByteDance.
Oh my God, that's the parent company. But guess who runs TikTok? An American company out of Texas. We did a segment on this. That's who runs TikTok now. So they're still, again, this is just scapegoating instead of telling their audience this is capitalism and capitalism is imploding. Instead of saying that, they have to bring up all these sort of scapegoating sort of things. So let's go to a graphic I have. This is the thing that's triggering them. This has 3,500 likes, this clip or this meme right here. And it shows what is this called? Wherever these people are on the wall, I forget what it's called. But, and then it gives a different perspective than founders and great people of these clowns we call the founding fathers, aka the founding colonialists, the founding slave owners, whatever. But we use the founding fathers for some reason. Let's see, George Washington, dentures made of slave teeth. Did that slave give up his teeth voluntarily? And I think that's Thomas Jefferson. I'm assuming that's Thomas Jefferson. Rape child slaves. And whoever this is, I forget, but the only good Indian is a dead Indian. And then Abraham Lincoln, largest mass hanging, 38 Dakotas. So these are the people that people are waking up to. These are truly despicable people. The founding fathers are truly some of the most disgusting people to ever exist. But this is the type of thing that they're talking about that is American pride is declining because of things like this, social media, and people, I guess, life is good, America's free, and everything's great, and then all they do is look at social media. Oh, my mind has changed. That's it. Similar to what they're saying about Russiagate. It just takes a couple of pay for advertisement, and now you can change your mind. Oh, this video is pretty funny. Look what this young lady does right here. I'll loop it. She's basically slapping all the forefathers. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I love this video. But yeah, this is another thing that is triggering the Outnumbered crowd. Love that video. She's slapping all the forefathers. Oh, that's good. The other thing I wanted to show you, this is just showing another take on them. Yeah, that was Thomas Jefferson. And then, terrorists, rapists, slave master, colonializers or colonialists. So another meme that would drive them crazy at Outnumbered. And then there's one last one. This is the founding of the country. We want to act like, oh, we just left the crazy British, repressive British, but have nothing to say how it was founded on genocide and enslavement. That's in the DNA of the United States. And this shows native land stolen. Look at 1776. Then a few years after slavery was abolished in the Constitution. Look how much. Doesn't this look similar, or isn't it similar to the map you see of Palestine, and how Israel has taken over time more and more of the territory? Very, very similar. Now go back to the video. I wanted to show those two, insert those two. I'm going to fast forward a little bit of this video to the part of this where they're talking about a particular TikTok user. I guess she goes viral, so they bring her up. And I think this is probably the tweet that they were talking about, or that kind of facilitated this conversation that they're having. listen, and they're going to bring up this TikToker and specifically what she talks about.
Taking place throughout Independence Day. But the liberal media is claiming that Americans are struggling to find reasons to celebrate. It's so awful. A new headline from the New York Times, of course, don't you know, reads, "No sparklers for these folks." Quote, "Whether because of crowds, politics, or a loss of patriotism, some Americans are conflicted about celebrating the 4th of July. The Times outlines a New York woman's political qualms with celebrating the holiday. She told the outlet, quote, "Last summer, Roe versus Wade was overturned, and that really made me less inclined to celebrate." The article goes on to say that even if she wanted to celebrate, she would worry about the message it sent. Oh, brother. The Times also cites an Arkansas woman who took issue with fireworks, telling the Times, quote, "It's hard to tell the difference between guns and fireworks. And here there is always something on the news about a shooting or something, so it makes me nervous. They are also bad for the environment. They release a lot of toxic chemicals." And that Arkansas woman, whose name is Malaya Tapp, posted this on TikTok. Take a look.
4th of July is coming up, and as a controversial holiday, I would just like to remind everyone that it is okay to not celebrate or to take advantage of the festivities and use it to celebrate something else. I will probably go to a barbecue because those tend to be hosted by Black family or friends. And I see that as a time to come together and celebrate the fact that we are also still here despite America trying to get rid of us when they were trying to gain their independence.
Well, the New York Times elevated that confused young woman. It is not a controversial holiday. It just isn't. Even if the New York Times says so, that is untrue. But this goes into, there's 2 points here, Joe. One is the nature of this being a push, what I would term a push story, is that it creates this narrative that is false. You know, you've got America is, you know, hundreds of millions of people. We love this holiday. We understand it. They choose, you know, Gen Zers, people from New York who are complaining about the heat of it. Some of this is post-pandemic, but this is about the media. You know, you look at this and a lot of people are talking about this, that, you know, the New York Times says that this is now controversial. What does this say to you?
This is how the cake is baked. If we're teaching a class on bias in journalism, activism in journalism, that piece is exactly how it works. So whoever the writer was for the New York Times here basically said, all right, I have a narrative that I want to go with, but I need people we're going to portray as regular.
How about the narrative is that I'm interviewing people or I'm talking to people or I'm visiting online and I can see this is what people are saying. This is what I see on 4th of July. Instead of talking about that, they want to pretend like everything in America can be going good. And then an op-ed comes out and that just changes people's mind regardless that they think the country's great and everything's going right. That's the idea they're trying to convey to their audience. And I don't know who could be buying it because there's actually an article about it and it's on CNN. All right, so let's bring this article up. But this is one of the articles maybe they're referring to, as you can see here. It says American patriotism hits a new low. Let's just read a little bit here. On the eve of July 4th, our annual celebration of American independence and fireworks, pride as being an American has hit a record low in new Gallup polling. Fewer than 4 in 10, 38% of adults say they were extremely proud to be Americans. The lowest ever measured by Gallup, which has been asking the question since 2021. So we're talking about 22 years or so. The 38% of proud Americans is well below the average 55% since the question has been asked. In fact, prior to 2015, Gallup had never found those expressing extreme pride lower than 55%. So let's go back to 2015. What was going on in 2015? The election and campaign of two of the worst people we would want to see running for office, and that is Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And let's continue with the article here. The decline in extreme American pride is due in large part to marked declines among Republicans and independents. While Republicans are still the group most likely to express extreme pride in the country, that number is now down to 58, a steep drop from the 75% who said the same thing in 2019. So the drop in these numbers can be laid at the feet of more often to the Republicans or GOP or conservatives. Their idea of this being patriotic has gone down the most. And independents, in the next sentence, among independents, just 34% say they are extremely proud of America today, compared to 41% who said the same thing in 2019. The number among Democrats actually rose marginally over the last 3 years from 22% to 26%. So that just goes through a couple of numbers